this ceiling? Is God really hearing me? Not only is God hearing you, but He desires to meet with you. Do you hear that? He wants to be with you. He is excited to be with you. Man, if we really ever grab hold of that truth, something about us is going to change. Can you remember how it was when you were a young teenager, and in your teenage years you were just getting started, and I remember it was for me. I felt awkward. I'm not sure I was. I don't know what I was, but I just sort of blundered through life like most people. But if I knew that some girl over here really wanted me to come and talk to her, my whole world got excited. You guys weren't like that, were you? No, every one of us was, weren't we? And so I couldn't wait to go over. And I always had these cool lines. And I'd go up to them and go, ha, 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 ha. They'd look at me like, you have lost your mind. And I had. It didn't matter. I was just trying to go and draw near. But what about God? When God, the God who holds this world and sustains it, says, draw near to me, and I will draw near to you. Folks, that should change our world. That's a promise from God that He just says, I want to be with you. Hebrews, the writer of Hebrews goes on, he says this, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience and having our bodies washed with pure water. What was he saying? He's saying, you know what? Jesus has done such an incredible work for each of us that He's brought us to the point where we're clean before God. He's brought us to the point where we can have everything forgiven, where we don't have to go to God saying, whoa, I am so guilty. But we can go because of the blood of Christ, if we've given our hearts to Christ, and we can draw right near to God. And as we draw near to God, it's almost a picture that we can walk right up into His throne room, we can sit on His lap, and we can say, Abba, Daddy, Father. Let's draw near. And first truth about prayer that I believe that God just wants to pour in our hearts so powerfully, so evidently, and so experientially, is that when we draw near to God, we're going to find Him. Do you hear that? When you really want to be with God, He is going to pour Himself in you. And nobody can take that away from you. And it's a miraculous event. Second thing, equally miraculous, equally powerful, that God just continues to pour out in me and continues to get me to the place where I just go, wow, I just need to hear that. And that is that my sheep hear my voice. My sheep hear my voice. There's a promise found in John chapter 10. Here's what He says in verses 3 and 4. The watchman opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them. Listen to this. And his sheep follow him because they know his voice. Goes on in John chapter 10. The writer says this in verse 16. I have other sheep. They are not of this sheep pen. Jesus speaking. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice. And there shall be one flock and one shepherd. And God says, I promise you that you'll hear my voice and you'll know it. And you'll know that I'm speaking to you and you'll know that I'm doing things in your life. Now, folks, I want you to think about that. Knowing God's voice. There are people that call me on the phone, and a lot of times they'll say, hey, Craig, what you doing? And I'll go, hey, how are you, man? If you get that response, recognize that I have no idea who you are. And say, this is such and such to me, so I won't go hanging on, okay? That I just won't know. I don't understand. I haven't picked up their voice. Maybe I haven't heard it in a long time. Maybe I haven't grabbed hold of it that it's somebody. But there are other people that can call me, and at the first syllable, I know who it is. My father lives 6,000 miles away. Before I moved to Scotland, if you heard us on the phone, you'd have sworn that's the same person. I'm sorry, it's not true anymore. My voice is different, believe it or not. But when he calls on the phone, he says, "Hey, Craig," I know exactly who it is. "Hey, Dad. Hey, Pop. What's going on? How are you?" When my mother calls, I know exactly who it is. Sometimes I have to tell her, though, I say, "Mom, this is your son." And she says, "Which one? The Scottish one?" But we know our voice. When my children call me, I don't have to worry about the mobile phone saying, "This is Garrett," or "This is Mackenzie," or "This is," well, Brian, we don't let him use the phone. But I know who it is. I know their voice. It doesn't take a moment for me to recognize it. I can be in the deepest thought. I can be doing everything. I can be wandering around. And I know their voice. You know what the promise of God is? That we can know His voice the same way. That we can be busy at work. We can be busy doing whatever in the world we have to do. We can be in a state of worry. We can be in a state of frustration. We can be swimming in the pool. We can be exercising. We can be walking up Arthur's Seat or the highest mountain even. And we can hear God's voice and know it just as real as if He is standing beside us, because He is. Know it more real than anything else, because the truth is, God says, "You know what? Not only can you hear my voice, but I know you. I know exactly how you're going to hear it. I know what to say to you to open up your mind and your heart. I know how to stop you dead so that you'll wake up and say, 'Wow, God is speaking to me.'" You know what? My wife knows how to get my attention. There are things that she can say. It's like the proverbial frying pan that hits you in the face and just wakes you up wide awake. Okay, I know something has to happen. And so that she says those things, she has my attention at that time. Well, the incredible truth is, I believe God can do the same thing. And that He really, passionately wants you to hear His voice and to know it and to follow Him. Now, the other incredible truth is, I told you about the passage in Isaiah chapter 50, where God was speaking to His people. And when God was speaking to His people, He was telling them, "You are not hearing me, even though I am calling out to you." And unfortunately, sometimes we as the children of God and the people of God are not hearing God because we don't have ears to hear and we don't want to hear. We all know the picture of a child when their father or their parents call, and they call, and the parent and the child doesn't respond. They call again, the child doesn't respond. They call again, the child doesn't respond. They call at the top of their lungs, and the child doesn't respond. Finally, the parent walks in and says, "Haven't